In the year 2060, Oreo got experimental and managed to make a flavor called Oh No, the filling became sentient and it craves human flesh and it escaped the factory and oh no, it's coming for me. That Oreo critics described as help me, what is that, please somebody, anyone, help me. And so, this is how it ends, not by some cosmic event, but by our own hubris. And my personal favorite review, tastes a little bit like a McDonald's nugget, dunked in sweet and sour, 6 out of 10. Now, for those who think that this is outlandish and Oreo would never do that, it should be mentioned that there are green tea flavored Oreos, fruit punch flavored, a candy corn flavor that you can eat with your Swedish fish flavored Oreos. All of these are real and part of the over 90 plus flavors that Oreo has. The most recent unhinged flavor is a Coke one that they put Pop Rocks into. I tried it and it wasn't good. Anyways, between now and humanity's demise in 2060, it really only gets worse with the flavors. In 2033, for Earth Day, they released the oak tree flavor, which is Oreos with real wood chips in the cookie, which kind of defeats the purpose of being Earth Day because they cut down trees to put them in the cookies, but that's aside the point. In 2036, they did a collaboration with Clorox, the bleach brand, where Clorox got an Oreo flavored bleach and Oreo got a bleach flavored Oreo. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There's far more to this story to tell you about. 2027 was the first year in any living person's memory that Oreo sales faltered. They'd gotten so used to living on top of the world of cookies that they weren't prepared for real competition. That competition being the very cookie that Oreo copied, then beat in the early 1900s. That cookie brand being Hydrox. A brief history for those that don't know, Hydrox was created in 1908, and Oreos came out in 1912 as a copy of Hydrox. However, people ended up preferring Oreos, and Oreos, through lots of different tactics, basically buried Hydrox until everyone thought of Oreos as the main cookie, and Hydrox as some worse knockoff. Anyways, after years of struggling in Oreo's shadow, Hydrox got sick of it and decided to make a change. That change being literally nothing. They didn't change the recipe to be more appealing, or the package design, or anything of actual importance. They just ended up getting a collab with Fortnite. With the new Fortnite collab, suddenly Hydrox was the cooler cookie among the younger generations. Hydrox immediately jumped on this success and began adding new flavors trying to compete with Oreo, the baseline flavors being mint, strawberry, and hydro flavored, which was just a Hydrox package filled with a little puddle of water which left the cookies uncomfortably moist, but they were a huge hit among 4-year-olds, so it surprisingly sold really well. The monopoly Oreo used to hold in the cookie section in Walmart was weakening. Hydrox began filling the spaces where Oreos once sat, and Oreos began watching as their sales numbers continuously dropped further and further. After a few months of this, it was evident that Hydrox was going nowhere, and the Oreo executives met to discuss the recovery plan. There were several plans, most of which weren't great, such as create laser sharks and train them to assassinate the Hydrox CEO, and break into Hydrox factories and add laxatives to their cookies. But after some advice from their legal team, they settled on something more legal. They would do everything in their power to keep the media spotlight on them. New products, new flavors, new content, everything. But it had to be weird enough to attract media attention. If everyone was too busy talking about Oreos, then Hydrox would be forgotten and returned to the corner of the cookie aisle where it once stayed. In January of 2028, Oreo held an event to showcase to the world the next decade of Oreo. They announced an Oreo cinematic universe with over 15 movies about Oreo planned. They announced merch lines and new Oreo-based products, and finally, the most important thing they announced was their new focus on making new flavors. They promised over 60 flavors that would come out periodically over the next decade. Most notable among these 60 flavors were the Oak Tree, Clorox Bleach, Costco $1.50 hot dog, bacon, with real bacon bits, toothpaste flavored, which to date is the only Oreo recommended by 9 out of 10 dentists, KFC chicken, with all 11 herbs and spices, and of course grass flavored Oreos, which was marketed to gamers as a way to touch grass without leaving your house. And their plan worked brilliantly. For a while at least. The media was focused on Oreos, YouTube videos going up as people tried out the new flavors, and slowly people began forgetting about Hydrox. Until Hydrox released their new product in 2037, close to the end of Oreo's decade plans. A spiritual successor to the Hydrox, the new Gallon-O Hydrox was a Hydrox package with a gallon of lukewarm milk poured into it. The marketing for the product announced that no longer do you need to dip the cookies in the milk because they are already soaked. And despite being uncomfortably soggy in lukewarm milk, it was a huge hit among all ages, boosting Hydrox sales even further, putting Oreo back to square one in their rivalry. For around the next decade, Oreo got into the concepts part of flavors. By this, I mean no longer were Oreos solid, real flavors, like strawberry or peanut butter or anything like that. Now it was flavors like walking on the beach at night flavored, or driving through the Midwest in winter, and more simply, Christmas flavored. Basically, Oreo was going down the candle route. But it worked for them, and it sold really well. Everyone wanted to see what the flavor sitting in the shower at 2 a.m. crying for hours because she left you and took the kids would actually taste like. And yes, that flavor was requested to be created after one of the higher-ups got in a messy divorce. But despite selling well, it still wasn't enough. People were beginning to simply lose interest in Oreo. Hydrox simply kept releasing better products like people wanted, like the Lucky Hydrox, which had scratch-off lottery tickets taped to some of the cookies, Sizzlin' Summer Hydrox, which was barbecue sauce, dumped into the bottom of a Hydrox package because apparently people just loved uncomfortably soggy cookies. It was 2050 now, and the Oreo executives were lost. They tried everything, and yet their sales kept slumping further and further, even with all of their new flavors. People just didn't care anymore. They were about to give up and simply resign themselves to the fate of fading into obscurity when a man came into their office with a groundbreaking idea. And by man, I mean a local insane asylum patient who had chewed his way out of his padded cell in order to get free. And by came into their office, I mean with his straitjacket still on, he dove headfirst through the window, breaking and entering. However, despite his obvious insanity, his idea caught the interest of the executives. A 14-in-1 Oreo. It served as a normal Oreo, but it could also do any of these things. Be used as soap, be used as shampoo and or conditioner, be used as windshield wiper fluid or as dish soap, gasoline for your car, bird feed, sleeping medication, and a few other things. The 14-in-1 Oreo sold insanely well, skyrocketing sales to numbers Oreos hadn't seen for years. And this success was the beginning of Oreo's new and final era. No longer would they create flavors, they would create experiences. With critics raving about the 14-in-1 Oreos, the company left them in no time to get bored, because in 2051, they immediately dropped a new kind, the Mystery Experience Oreos. Oreo had bought in bulk a large number of random unused pills from pharmacies across the country, and dissolved one random pill into each and every Oreo. Each Oreo was a gamble. This one would get rid of your headache. This one might help your allergies. This one might stop your heart. Who knows? In 2052, they dropped the ever-changing Oreo, which would change flavor every single bite you took into it. This one was a huge hit, even despite the insanely high rates of cancer it was linked to. But in 2054, they released the Gloreo, which was a glow stick combined with an Oreo, where the first bite would cause the Oreo to glow, and once you were done eating the Oreo, the inside of your mouth would glow as well, at a whopping 1500 lumens, equal to that of a light bulb, which allowed you to light the room with only your mouth. These cookies were very quickly pulled off shelves after hospitalizing 98% of the people who ate them, though Oreo in a press conference said, "It's not our fault their bloodline was weak, they should have been stronger, like the 2%. But even despite this, Oreo sales kept rising. In 2057, it was a fitness Oreo, which was just an Oreo with steroids inside of it, which somehow never actually got banned, despite how illegal it was. And finally, in 2059, they released Fortune Cookies Oreos, which could show you your actual future, as Oreo executives had sold their souls to learn dark magic, allowing them to do so. Hydrox had basically gone out of business at this point, and they tried a few more cookies, namely all based on that concept of pouring liquids into their packages, but Oreo had just found the key to success. Despite Hydrox's demise, Oreo wasn't done. They were one of the largest companies in the world now, but they wanted more. They wanted to be on top. So, with black magic and various food crimes on their resume, they put forth to create not just the ultimate Oreo cookie, but the ultimate food, something that no one could replicate. And so naturally, they decided to make living Oreo filling. The logic here being that the filling could literally grow and evolve to change flavors and consistency to eventually be the perfect food. They spent months with it in a lab, feeding it and testing it, trying to make sure it would evolve in the proper way. Some of the scientists even began treating it like a pet, teaching it to do simple tricks. But one day, a scientist left his phone in the lab overnight, and the Oreo filling got a hold of it. 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes of scrolling on Instagram before the filling decided that humanity didn't deserve to live anymore. Naturally, what came after that is basically your average Hollywood movie. The filling attacked the Oreo executives, it blew up the factory and flees. While it's hiding and planning to take out the rest of humanity, it meets a girl, falls in love, beginning to think that maybe it was wrong about humanity, but she ghosts it, so it gets upset and slashes her tires and then of course consumes her dad. Then it goes back and attacks Chicago, so the government tries to nuke it, but it just absorbs the blast and becomes stronger. Then naturally, it of course goes from Chicago to France, and obliterates France, and then the rest of Europe. But then it takes a trip to the Caribbean and has a nice relaxing weekend on the sand, then proceeds to eliminate Africa, but leaves Madagascar alone because while it was on vacation, it did watch all 3 Madagascar movies and the Penguins one, and they were good enough for the filling to spare them temporarily. It then invaded Asia, but during its invasion, the US deployed its secret weapon it had built to stop the Oreo filling. You see, after the filling left Chicago in rubble, the military went and bought the Hydrox recipe and began creating their own sentient filling, with the intent to train it to destroy the Oreo filling. So, when the sentient Hydrox filling was ready, they deployed it to Asia to stop the Oreo filling. But instead of fighting, they ended up falling in love, and together they went and destroyed America, all while kissing the entire time, which was a weird flex, but, you know, their choice, I guess. Anyways, long story short, they get married in Canada, destroy Canada, and on their honeymoon, they destroy the rest of the world before settling down in Madagascar to raise their filling children in a humanless world.